A metal tray crashed to the floor, plates shattering and soup splashing across the restaurant tiles as Alice stumbled backward, breath quickening. The angry customer stood over her, pointing a finger in her face as if she were a child. "Are you blind? I said no onions. No onions," he yelled, loud enough for the entire place to turn. She bowed quickly, hands shaking, struggling to gather the broken pieces before the manager appeared. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'll replace it immediately. Please, move faster," the customer snapped. "These people don't listen." His tone cut deeper than the words. Alice swallowed, pretending not to notice the stares burning into her skin. Her dark hands trembled as she reached for the last plate shard. A quiet male voice cut through the tension. "Let me help." Alice looked up. Jin, the new employee, crouched beside her, gently lifting the hot bowl off the floor with a cloth. His expression was calm, almost a calm for someone working their first day in a chaotic Seoul restaurant kitchen. "You'll burn your hands," Alice whispered urgently. "They'll heal," he replied softly. "Yours matter more." Before she could respond, Miss Park marched toward them with the fury of a storm. "Alice, what have you done now? Embarrassing us in front of customers again." She didn't even glance at Jin. She snatched the broken tray from Alice's hands and hissed under her breath, "Do you want to ruin this restaurant?" Alice lowered her head. "I'm sorry, ma'am." "No, you're not," Miss Park hissed. "If you were, you'd stop making stupid mistakes." Jin's jaw tightened. "She didn't make a mistake," he said quietly. Miss Park froze and whipped her head toward him. "What did you say?" Jin straightened, eyes meeting hers. The customer was rude. She handled it well. Alice stared at him, confused. Why would a new employee risk trouble for her? Nobody ever did that. Not here. Not in this place where she often felt invisible or, worse, unwanted. Miss Park narrowed her eyes. "You must be new here. Don't speak in matters you don't understand." Jin didn't argue. He simply bowed slightly and stepped back, but Alice could see the fire in his eyes. It scared her a little. It also comforted her in a way she didn't expect. Minutes later, in the kitchen, the air smelled of garlic and steam as cooks yelled orders back and forth. Alice hurried to prepare a replacement dish. Jin quietly approached the station beside hers, washing vegetables with silent precision. Alice whispered, "You shouldn't have spoken up. She'd take it out on you." "I faced worse," he murmured. "Besides, you didn't deserve that." She tried to smile, but the heaviness on her chest suffocated the attempt. "Things are different for people like me here." Jin glanced sideways. "Different doesn't mean acceptable." His tone was firm, almost protective. She didn't know how to respond. Their shift continued with relentless pace. Jin moved slower than the others, too observant, but he learned it quickly. Alice guided him through the steps, pointing out shortcuts and warning him about Miss Park's sudden inspections. Several times, she caught Jin watching the manager with narrowed, thoughtful eyes, as if studying her every movement. When the dinner rush ended, Alice leaned against the metal counter, exhausted. Her back ached from hours on her feet, and her fingers were stiff with detergent burns. Jin placed a bottle of water beside her. "You haven't rested once," he said. Alice chuckled weakly. "Resting is a luxury here. You should have it," Jin replied. She lifted the bottle and took a sip. "Why do you care so much?" Jin hesitated, his voice quiet. "Because kindness shouldn't require permission." Alice froze, the words sinking into her chest. Nobody had spoken to her like that in years, not since she left Ghana, not since she began sending money home to support her little sisters. Most days, she felt like a shadow only noticed when someone needed something or wanted to complain. "Thank you," she whispered, unsure what else to say. He smiled faintly. "I hope today gets better for you." Before she could respond, Miss Park shouted Jin's name. He bowed to Alice and hurried off. Alice didn't know it yet, but her world had started to shift the moment Jin stepped into that restaurant. The next day brought more chaos. Lunchtime customers flooded in, and the staff scrambled to keep up. Alice managed 3 tables at once when Miss Park pulled her aside without warning. "Why are you moving so slowly?" Park demanded. Alice blinked. "I'm moving as fast as I can, ma'am. You're embarrassing us, again. And stop talking to that new boy too much." Alice frowned in confusion. "We barely talked. You think I don't see everything?" Park shot back. "Focus on work." Alice nodded and returned to her tasks. but frustration burned hot beneath her ribs. What did she do wrong this time? Across the room, Jin polished silverware, watching quietly. He saw the way Alice's shoulders curved inward. He saw how she fought tears, and he clenched his fists, doing his best not to react. During break, Alice sat alone behind the restaurant, staring at her phone. Messages from her little sister popped up. "Unni, can you send a little more this week?" School fees came again. Alice closed her eyes. Her throat tightened. She typed a simple "I'll try," because that's all she could ever say. Nothing more. "Are you all right?" Jin's voice startled her. She wiped her eyes quickly. "Just tired." "You look sad." She forced a laugh. "Sometimes, sadness is routine. That shouldn't be normal," Jin replied. Alice stared at him. "Why do you talk like you're from another world?" "Maybe I am," he said softly, his gaze drifting as if remembering something heavy. Before Alice could ask what he meant, Miss Park barged outside. "Break time is over. Both of you, back inside." They obeyed, but Jin's eyes lingered on Alice's trembling hands. Hours passed. Another argument with a customer, another comment about her skin, another lecture from Ms. Park. Jin watched all of it, his silence simmering dangerously. That night, after closing, Alice stayed to mop the floor. Jin stayed too, insisting she shouldn't work alone. "You don't have to help," she told him. "I want to." His voice was quiet but steady. Alice paused, watching him. "You're too kind for this place. Or maybe this place needs someone kind," he said. She didn't answer. She didn't know how. She only knew that when he looked at her, she felt seen, and that scared her more than anything. Then his words slipped out softly. "Alice, can I ask you something?" She looked up. "What is it?" "Why does Miss Park treat you like that? Is she always this way?" Alice laughed bitterly. "Always. She thinks I'm slow, forgetful, unworthy, and I don't have the luxury to fight back. You shouldn't have to tolerate cruelty." "What choice do I have?" She whispered. "I need this job. My sisters need me. I can't afford to be difficult." Jin's chest tightened. "You deserve respect." She shrugged. "Respect is expensive." Jin stepped closer, voice low. "If I could fix things for you, would you let me?" Alice stared at him, confused, hopeful, afraid. "Why would you want to fix my problems?" His eyes softened. "Because every time you smile through pain, you make me wish I could carry it for you." Alice's breath caught. She opened her mouth to respond, but the door slammed open. Ms. Park stood there, eyebrows raised. "Jin, a word?" "Now." Jin nodded slowly and followed her, leaving Alice alone with a heart beating too fast, too loud, too deeply for someone she had known for only 2 days. Yet something told her Jin wasn't who he appeared to be, and she was right. When Jin followed Miss Park into the office, the air changed. The small room felt tighter, walls closing in with every step he took. Miss Park shut the door behind them and turned. Sharply, arms crossed. "You're causing trouble," she said coldly. Jin kept his face blank. "How so?" "You talk too much. You interfere too much. And worst of all, you're encouraging Alice to talk back. That girl needs discipline, not sympathy." Jin's jaw moved slightly, the only sign of emotion. "I don't see anything wrong with being kind." "That's because you don't understand how this place works," she snapped. "People like her are lazy. They need pressure. She should be grateful she even has a job." Jin stepped forward before he realized it. His voice dropped. "Repeat that." Ms. Park stiffened. "Repeat what?" "The last thing you said," Jin replied, eyes darkening. Ms. Park opened her mouth, then closed it as if reconsidering. "Look, new boy, Alice is not your problem. Do your job. Keep quiet and stop trying to be her hero." Jin said nothing, because if he spoke, he would expose everything. Miss Park dismissed him with a wave. "Go home, both of you, and tomorrow less talking, more working." He bowed and left the office, but the words she had spoken echoed like thunder in his mind. People like her. As he walked out, he found Alice tying her hair in the mirror near the lockers. Her eyes lifted, searching his face. "What did she say to you?" she asked. "Nothing worth repeating. She didn't blame you for helping me, right?" Jin hesitated. "She warned me." Alice sighed. "That woman hates me. She thinks I'm here to ruin her life." "You aren't," Jin said firmly. Alice gave a small, tired smile. "It doesn't matter what I am. People have already decided." He felt something tighten in his chest. He wanted to tell her everything who he really was, why he was here, how her kindness had pierced straight through him. But telling her now would only make things worse. So he kept silent. The next morning, Alice woke early, dragging her heavy feet to work. She tried to shake off the exhaustion, but nothing changed. Not the Seoul air, not her routine, not the ache in her bones. But when she entered the restaurant, Jin was already there, wiping tables. "You're early," she said softly. "I wanted to help with morning prep. You don't have to overwork yourself." "I don't mind," he replied, "especially if it makes your day easier." Alice looked at him for a long moment. "Why do you care so much about me?" He opened his mouth, but before he could answer, the bell above the door jingled. Miss Park entered, clipboard in hand, eyes scanning the space like a hawk. "You to have work," she barked. "Stop chatting." Alice quickly moved to her station. Jin followed, but as he passed Miss Park, he noticed the woman glaring at Alice's back with quiet hatred. Something felt off, like the situation was escalating. And it was. By noon, the restaurant filled with office workers. Orders piled up. Miss Park grew increasingly irritable, shouting instructions every few seconds. Alice rushed to deliver dishes, careful not to slip. But when she approached a table, a customer suddenly complained loudly, "Yeah, this meat is cold." Alice bowed. "I'll fix it right away." The man scoffed. "I knew it. They hire anyone these days." Jin felt the air suck out of the room. He was wiping glasses nearby and froze mid-motion. Alice clenched her jaw and reached for the plate to replace it. But the customer pushed it toward her with unnecessary force. The soup splashed onto her arm, hot enough to make her gasp. "Watch it," the customer barked. "Are you trying to burn me?" "You pushed it," Jin said sharply, before Alice could speak. The customer scoffed. "You defending her?" "Of course you are. Men like you love pretending to be heroes." Miss Park rushed over. "What's happening here?" The customer pointed at Alice. "She served cold food and almost burned me." "This place is a joke." Miss Park did not even glance at him. She turned directly to Alice. "You again. Can you do nothing right?" Alice lowered her gaze, humiliated and shaking from the burn. Jin stepped in front of her. "She did nothing wrong." Miss Park exploded. "Enough. If you interfere with my staff again, you're out." "Then fire me," Jin said calmly. The entire restaurant fell silent. Miss Park stared at him, stunned. "What did you just—" "I said fire me. If defending someone from verbal abuse and lies is a problem, then I shouldn't be here." The customer huffed, offended. "This is ridiculous. Call your real manager. I want to report all of you." Miss Park forced a smile. "Sir, please calm down." "No," Jin said suddenly, eyes narrowing. "Let's call someone higher." Alice tugged his sleeve urgently, whispering, "Please, stop. You're making this worse for yourself." He looked at her, guilt flashing across his eyes, but he didn't back down. Within minutes, the customer stormed out, but not before causing a loud scene. Other tables whispered. Some defended Alice. Some blamed her, but the damage had been done. Miss Park pointed toward the kitchen. "Alice, follow me." Alice's stomach twisted. Jin clenched his fists. "No, she's my staff," Miss Park hissed. "You can't tell me how to discipline her." Jin stepped between them. "You won't discipline anyone today. Not her. Not ever again." Alice stared at him, confused and terrified. "Jin, stop, please." But Jin was barely listening. Miss Park sneered. "Who do you think you are? Some savior? I've been running this branch for 7 years. I know trash when I see it." Alice inhaled sharply, her throat burning. Jin's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "Say that again." Miss Park smirked. "Trash. That's what she is." Alice felt her knees weaken. She turned away, silently willing herself not to cry. A glass shattered behind her. Everyone spun around. Jin had crushed it in his bare hand. Blood dripped down his fingers, but his expression didn't change. He whispered, almost shaking with fury, "You don't deserve to run this place." Miss Park's face paled. "What is wrong with you?" Before he could speak again, the door chimed and 3 sharply dressed corporate auditors entered. Suits, badges, not smiling. "Who's the branch manager here?" the lead auditor asked. Miss Park blinked rapidly. "I am." "Is something wrong?" "We received an anonymous complaint," the auditor said, "and video evidence." Alice's heart slammed against her ribs. She whipped around and saw Jin standing still, eyes down, blood running from his hand. Ms. Park forced a laugh. A complaint. That must be a misunderstanding. Let's talk in your office, the auditor said. Now. They disappeared inside. Minutes passed, then 10 minutes, then 15. Alice stood near the counter, anxiety crawling through her veins. Jin wrapped a napkin around his cut hand, staring at the door with unreadable eyes. Finally, the office door opened. Miss Park stumbled out, face white as paper. The auditor spoke loudly enough for everyone in the restaurant to hear. Miss Park, you are hereby terminated for employee abuse, discrimination, financial misconduct, and violation of company policies. Gasps rippled across the customers. Miss Park wheeled around, pointing at Jin. You did this. You sent them. Who are you? Her voice shook with rage. The auditors turned to Jin, suddenly bowing slightly. Mr. Kim, the lead auditor said respectfully, would you like to proceed with the restructuring plan? The whole restaurant fell into stunned silence. Alice's breath caught in her throat. Jin lifted his gaze slowly, and that was the moment everything broke wide open. He removed the napkin from his hand, revealing the blood-dotted skin of a man who had held far more than broken glass in his life. His voice was steady. Yes, he said. Proceed. Customers whispered. Staff stared. Alice froze, unable to move or breathe. One of the auditors added, we apologize for not arriving sooner. Sir, not Jin, not the new worker, sir. Miss Park's legs gave out, and she dropped to her knees, trembling. Mr. Kim, I didn't know. I didn't please. I was only trying to follow company standards. Jin looked at her with no anger now, only cold emptiness. Company standards never included abusing staff. Alice's heart pounded. Jin, she whispered. Who are you? He turned to her slowly, pain flickering through his eyes. Alice, I'm sorry. The restaurant had fallen completely silent. Jin bowed his head briefly. I am Kim Jin-woo, CEO of KJ Dining Group, the owner of this restaurant, and all 32 branches. Alice stumbled back as the words hit her like a wave. Owner, CEO. Her mind spun. You lied to me, she whispered, voice cracking. Jin took a step toward her. I didn't lie, I just didn't tell you who I was. That's the same thing, she said, tears blurring her vision. You made me trust you. Jin reached out then stopped himself. Alice, I came here to investigate staff treatment. But you're the reason I stayed. You're the reason I couldn't just watch. I don't want your pity. Alice whispered harshly. It's not pity, he said, voice breaking. She didn't let him finish. Alice turned and walked past him, covering her mouth to stop the sob rising in her throat. Jin tried to follow, but the auditors stopped him. Sir, procedures. Not now, he snapped, pushing past them, searching for her. But Alice was already outside, pacing in the cold evening air, tears streaming down her face. He reached her in seconds. Alice, please look at me. She didn't. You shouldn't have interfered. You made everything worse. I was trying to protect you. I didn't ask for protection, she cried. All I wanted was honesty. Jin's voice cracked. I know, and I should have given you that. Why me? She asked, voice shaking. Why care so much? Jin breathed out slowly. Because you're the only person who has ever looked at me like I was human. Not a bank account, not a CEO. Just a man washing dishes beside you. Alice wiped her cheeks. I don't know if I can forgive you. I'll wait, Jin said softly. As long as it takes. Alice stepped back. I need time, please. Jin lowered his gaze. Then take all the time you need. He didn't chase her again. He watched her walk away, her silhouette trembling under the street lights. That night was the longest of his life. The next morning, Alice arrived at work prepared to hand in her resignation. She expected whispers, stares, chaos. Instead, the restaurant felt calmer, cleaner, almost peaceful. New supervisors stood at stations. Staff looked relieved. She went to her locker, planning to grab her things and leave. Inside, she found a folded letter, her name written in gentle handwriting. She hesitated, then opened it. Alice, I won't ask you to forgive me now. You deserve honesty, respect, and safety. So I've made changes, real ones. The staff will have fair hours, proper pay, and a manager who values them. You made me see what my company was failing to protect, and you made me feel something I've never felt before. Not because you were kind to a stranger, but because you were kind to a man who didn't deserve it. I hope one day you'll let me explain everything. Until then, I'll be waiting outside every night, whether it rains or not. Jin-woo. Alice held the letter to her chest, tears falling silently. She spent the day working in quiet confusion. Everyone seemed lighter. No yelling, no insults, no fear hanging in the air. For the first time in a long time, Alice felt safe. But safety didn't answer the ache in her chest. By closing time, she walked outside, ready to go home, and she saw him, standing in the rain, without an umbrella, soaked from head to toe. Jin didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink when she approached. Alice exhaled shakily. You'll get sick, Jin-woo. Then I'll be sick. Why? Because I told you I'd wait. Alice's throat tightened. You don't have to prove anything. Jin stepped closer, rain dripping from his eyelashes. Alice, I didn't hide who I was because I didn't trust you. I hid it because I wanted just once to be treated like a normal person. And you treated me like I mattered. Alice's voice dropped to a whisper. I wasn't pretending. You know. I know. He breathed. Silence settled, heavy, emotional, tender. Then Alice's lips trembled into a fragile smile. Next time, don't hide your heart from me. Jin's expression broke into one of pure relief. He stepped forward, slowly, making sure she wasn't pulling away. She didn't. She let him wrap his arms around her, pulling her gently into his chest. Rain fell around them, cold and endless, but Alice felt warm for the first time in years. She whispered into his shoulder, I'm still scared. I am too, Jin murmured, but we'll figure it out. And under the glow of flickering street lights, beneath the relentless Seoul rain, Alice held onto him not because he was rich, not because he owned the restaurant, but because he had given her something far rarer, a place where her heart felt safe. And Jin held her like a man who had finally found what he didn't know he was searching for, a secret love hidden behind the kitchen door.